Well, hello. I am here today in the Airbus Corporate Jet Studio showroom. It feels like a studio because it's so huge in here, but it really is a showroom. And we're going to talk about the brand new ACJ TwoTwenty today. Borna, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome, Rene.
Me about this aircraft. This is the grand opening of the showroom. Will you tell me just a little bit, or tell our audience just a little bit about that so they know where we're sitting?
With pleasure. Yeah, and thank you for joining us here in Toulouse. The ACJ TwoTwenty Creative Studio is the place where customers can come and discover the space advantage that we have to offer. The ACJ TwoTwenty is offering up to 2 times the space versus a typical ULR business jet. And once customers have understood that this is the aircraft that they want, they'll be able to customize their interior layout, as we did using the floor layout tool. And then once they've frozen the interior that they want from the over 100 different layout possibilities, they'll come here, they'll meet our head of creative design, Sylvain Maria. You'll meet him tomorrow, and he'll help them make that place their own.
I love, as we were walking through, there's so much privacy in this. And I know that's particularly important sometimes to female executives who are traveling, who don't really want to be in the same space. They want to have their own privacy for dressing or showering. And that's just not available in other airplanes. But I get ahead of myself because we really want to talk about what the performance of the ACJ is, because it's very different than what we experience with ultra long range jets in a traditional sense, right?
Well, I would say it's very similar in that we have the right range. In 2019, we looked at the markets. Where do people fly? And if I focus specifically on the US market, in 2019, 99.5% of flights were within 5,500 nautical miles. So we offer more range than that. So we have the right range, over 12 hours. And when you're flying over 12 hours, we believe you deserve comfort, ACJ comfort, Rene. And I think you've had a sense of what that could feel like. And early next year, we'll be showing the world our first ACJ TwoTwenty so that the rest of the world can experience what it's like to fly on board such a wonderful aircraft. In terms of performance, think about it this way. You have an aircraft which is just 4 feet longer than a Global 7500, yet it can take off with almost 1,000 feet less than a G650ER. That's incredible for an aircraft that has a cabin twice the size.
That is amazing. Well, talk to me a little bit about the landing performance, though, because I think that's significant as well.
Of course. I mean, landing performance is less of a challenge than the takeoff, but still there are challenging airports such as London City, and we already fly there. So landing's not an issue. Pretty much you'll be able to fly to the same airports as any other ULR.
You know, I'd love to talk a little bit about how you developed this aircraft, because this is not an aircraft that you took from the commercial side and brought over to a corporate jet. You designed this from the beginning as a corporate jet, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's not simply a airliner with a pretty cabin. We've changed this aircraft significantly. We've lowered the cabin altitude, so you're going to feel refreshed on arrival. The acoustics, I mean, with the high bypass engines we have from Pratt & Whitney, 12 to 1 bypass ratio, it's already an exceptionally quiet aircraft, both on the outside and on the inside, but we're making it better. We're adding additional noise insulation with our exclusive cabin outfitter, Comlux. And what that means is, for example, in the bedroom, you're going to have noise levels which are down to 48 decibels, which is exceptional.
That is. And so it looks a little bit different on the ramp than a typical ultra long range jet too, because of the wing attachment.
Yeah, I mean, the configuration is different. You don't have the engines at the rear on the tail. You have them under the wings, so the aircraft sits slightly higher up. But the advantage is, inside, you're getting a cabin that's 24 meters long, and you still have space for up to 40 bags inside and bags in the cargo hold. So in terms of capacity, flexibility, it's a game changer.
It sounds amazing to me. I can't wait to fly on it.
We can't wait to have you on board it.
And tell me from a passenger standpoint, what are some of the features that you heard from your existing owners that you were able to incorporate into this aircraft?
Yeah. René, our existing customers value space. So we try to preserve that as much as possible. When you look at the design that we have of the curvature, we try to preserve that without any bumps in the ceiling panel so that people can move about the cabin freely. In terms of the 6 cabin zones inside, you mentioned earlier the privacy for different types of executives. You have freedom to live on board this aircraft as you would on the ground.
And so it seems like it would be incredibly conducive to pulling into an airport instead of going into the FBO's conference room to have a meeting, just to invite your guests on board.
Yeah.
I imagine there would be some wow factor there.
Oh, absolutely. And when you pull inside, you have flexibility and autonomy. We do have integrated airstairs, so you don't have to rely on airports facilities. You can fly to remote locations. And with the reliability that we have, remember, René, this aircraft, when it enters into service, already today we have over 750,000 flight hours of maturity, over 500,000 flight cycles. So from day one, you're going to have an aircraft that's well understood by Airbus, its suppliers, and the whole support infrastructure. Because our customers, what they value the most is that when they want to fly, they know that they'll be flying.
Well, one of the things that we've been hearing about more and more these days is the unavailability of parts for some aircraft. And for a smaller fleet of aircraft, I imagine that those parts are even more scarce. Can you talk a little bit about how Airbus aircraft are or are not affected by the current supply chain issues?
Well, there are supply chain issues throughout the industry because of what's going on in the world. But we have a lot of customers to support and keep flying the airlines. And this supply chain has a lot of resources to manage and to ensure that we can keep our customers flying. We have a dedicated support team at ACJ. It's a dedicated organization, but it draws on the thousands of people that work at Airbus and the supply chain to ensure that when you need parts, they're available and fast.
Well, the other thing that I want to talk a little bit about, because this is near and dear to my heart, is the availability of pilots to fly this aircraft. Because
absolutely.
We're finding that it's difficult to find pilots for all sorts of aircraft in the business aviation space. And gosh, there's a huge pool of pilots and aircraft mechanics, technicians who have worked on this aircraft and have thousands and thousands of hours.
Well, I think the priority is to reduce the need for resources. The maintenance levels, the ACJ TwoTwenty is designed to fly thousands of hours per year based on its airliner foundation. So you're going to have inherent reliability there that you'll have less downtime. For example, the annual checks you should be able to manage overnight, which means in the first 6 years, you shouldn't have to really worry about having any downtime at all. We've compared ourselves with competitors, and what it means is you're probably going to have an additional 50 days over those 10 years of increased availability, if not more.
That's amazing. Well, as we were walking in, you and I were talking about engine overhauls on other aircraft and how daunting those are to aircraft buyers. Tell me a little bit about the engine overhauls on an ACJ.
It's simple. In terms of the design life of the ACJ TwoTwenty engines from Pratt & Whitney, and we've seen this with our existing ACJ aircraft, you'll probably never during the life of the aircraft, have to worry about doing an engine overhaul. Yeah, it will stay on the wing.
And are they on condition, or do they not have a TBO, or is that just so far in the future it doesn't matter?
Based on the reliability, there's no need for an engine maintenance program.
That's something.
That's a game changer. And this is, when you add up all of these aspects, that's why we're telling our customers you're going to have a 1/3 lower key operating costs when you factor in the lower maintenance, the lower spares costs, the lower training costs. It's a game changer, René.
Right. Lower downtime. Talk to me about fuel burn.
Fuel burn, when you're flying from with APACs, East Coast to West Coast, for example, I mean, the performance is incredible. You'll be able to climb straight up to 41,000 feet. And mid-cruise, you'll be burning less than 500 US gallons per hour. For a cabin of that size, that's impressive.
It is. It is indeed. So I would be remiss if I did not ask you, how much money is it for all of this luxury and comfort in the air?
Great question, René. Historically, ACJs have been right at the top of business aviation, out of reach of most customers. But we're very proud the way we've designed this aircraft. We're maintaining those high ACJ standards in terms of the cabin finish. We're offering this aircraft at the same price point as other ULR business jets. So we're talking G700, 7500, 10X, that range.
Astounding. Thank you so much. I
you're
really
very welcome.
appreciate your time.
Thanks, René.